Welcome to how to start your first business in 2025 and finally start building the life that you've been wanting for some time. So I'll be running through the first 5 steps that I've done to build my first 3 businesses by the age of 27, and I've built up quite a lot of experience now in how to initially take that first step. Now I'm going to do another video on how to decide to take the leap in order to physically make the decision to start. But here's, once you've decided you've done it, here are the 5 steps to get going pretty much from today. So step 1, what are you selling? Now, I believe there are 3 separate motivators for businesses that people want to start. I believe the first one is skills and or experience. So a lot of people, when you talk to them and you say, oh, they say to you, I want to start a business, and you say, well, what do you want to do? They're like, I don't know. That's the problem. So this is the first thing you have to work out, because without this, you're going to go absolutely nowhere. You're going to go in circles of people saying, I want to start my own thing, but they don't know what to do. And that's obviously perfectly normal. So the first thing that you could do is just do what you are currently doing just on your own. So for example, if you're working as a telecoms in a call center, cold calling for people, trying to get leads, then you could start a business doing that, as that's what you're being paid currently to learn. It's like your current employer is paying you to learn the relevant skills that you can then take to start your own thing and leave that business. Now, not everyone enjoys what they do, but I believe that if you can do something that you're currently skilled in or currently getting built up the skills to do, then it's going to give you the confidence to start. No one likes going into complete unknown, and there is so much uncertainty that comes with starting your own business that if you can eliminate as many of those as possible and do something that you know, or something that you've been taught, or something that you have good experience in, this is a lot easier if you're doing something that's very easy to replicate. So, for example, if you were, let's take a really boring example. Let's say you worked for a lawn cutting business where you go around and cut lawns, say in the UK, and you get paid by the hourly to do it. Well, you could just start your own business doing the same thing, going around and cutting the lawns, and cut out the middleman, which would be your employer. You take on all the risk, and in return for that, you get all the reward. But if you're thinking something a little bit more corporate, like in a call center or something like that, or you work for an accountancy, then you've got your qualifications, then what's stopping you? You've got the experience, you might as well do something that you know. Once you commit to a business, you don't have to commit for the rest of your life. You can. It's not like having a kid where you've got them for life. You can switch, but having the confidence to start something. So for me personally, my first business was something that I had experience in, so I knew how it worked. I knew who the customers were. I knew what the pain was. I knew what we were trying to solve. So that gave me the confidence to start, and then from that, I then went into things that I was a little bit more passionate about, or into things that I saw the opportunity was a lot higher. But again, this is just starting. This isn't the thing that's going to make you millions and millions like you dream about. This is just a thing to get you onto the ladder of being an entrepreneur. The second point that you could start is something where you have a pain and or you are very good at. So let me give you an example of a pain. Let's say you are really overweight, like really, really overweight, and you decide that you want to turn your life around. So you lose a load of weight, and you then want to help other people who were in the same situation as you lose weight. You know they have a pain. So that is something that you could do, because it's something that you have the experience in, and also you know why. You know how to sell to those people. You know what they're feeling. You can actually put yourself in their shoes. So when you're actually selling to them, sometimes the best sell is people enjoy things that people have done. No one wants to listen to people who haven't actually done it or don't have the skills required to do what they are selling. That's why no one ever starts businesses with things that they're crap at, because it just doesn't work. The flip side of that is if you're very, very good at it. For example, if you're a up and coming golfer and you're right on the cusp of making it, people are going to probably listen to you for golf lessons. Whereas if I tried to give you a golf lesson, believe me, if you come to watch me play golf, you would not want a lesson from me at all. The same way you probably wouldn't want a flying lesson from someone who's blind, who's never done it before. You've got to put yourself in your future customer's shoes and think, what would I buy from? You're not going to take PT sessions from someone who's grossly overweight. The same way you're probably not going to employ an accountant who's been done for ill practice and has served time for money laundering. It just doesn't really work like that. So you either have the pain and you've lived the pain and you're building your product, you're building your service to get out of that pain. So for example, for Leader, which myself and Neil started, we had the pain that we didn't want to cold call anymore. So when we decided that we didn't want to cold call, we looked for alternatives of cold calling, and we built an email acquisition system that delivered us enough clients for us to never cold call again. And from that day, I don't think I've done a cold call. So if you haven't got any skills, you haven't got any experience, but you have a pain and you want to build something up, then that's the best way to do it. Or if you're very good at it. Third thing, passion. Now, people love the cliche quote of if you enjoy what you do, you never work in a day in your life. There's not many things that you're passionate about enough that are going to pay the bills. Now, you might really enjoy painting. You're probably not going to be the next Picasso. I really enjoy playing football. I knew very, very early on that I was never good enough to have my bills paid for by football. But that doesn't mean you can't be passionate about some things in life that you can then start. For example, there are some, you're not going to be 100% passionate about it, but you might enjoy it enough so that every single day you can go in and turn the lights on and get the things moving. When you start these businesses, they're very, very hard to get off the ground, and it's like putting on a driving and just not knowing where the destination is. You just keep going and keep going and keep going. It's very hard to do that if you have zero passion in it. Now, you might be able to survive off the journey and the end goal, but without passion, you're going to be in real trouble getting that thing from maybe like the initial shiny new object and the enjoyment at the start into where it actually needs to go in order for you to survive as a business. So there are the three motivators. What I would do is I'd go through those, and if you're literally at the stage where you're like, I just want to get out and I want to do something, go through them, find things, write down every single thing you're good at, write down every single experience you have, go through the pains that you have in your life, find things you're very good at. Now, this will jump out at you straight away. A lot of people aren't very good at anything. That's not me being harsh, it's just the reality of it. There's not many exceptional people, exceptional tasks. But if you have got one, use it for your advantage. I don't know why you wouldn't. The final thing, passion. Now, I'd definitely advise on the list of how good these things are, this is number one for a reason, that's number two, and that's number three. You stick with this one at the top, but if you have to come down it, then find one a little bit lower. If we actually go through what it is that a business does or what it is that you'll be doing, you'll essentially be, your customers are here, right? Let's put a little smiley face on him. They or her, they will be giving you money in return for you giving them something called value. So if you cannot create value, then you're not going to be able to sell anything, because why would they ever give you money for a lack of value? Have you ever paid for something and gone, that's not worth it? You don't want too many customers like that. Let me tell you that. Just to kind of finish this a little bit off, your first not going to be your last. Your first business will not be your last. So you do just need to get started. So come up here, find one of these three things to begin and just go for it. And then you might find out after 2 years that you do have a passion, but now you've got enough money to start the passion. So yeah, I think that's I've explained that relatively well. Finally, what to do if you have no skills, no passion, no experience, and you're average at everything, which, believe me, you're probably not, but let's say you do find yourself into that. Well, we live in a digital age where you have access to so many free courses, YouTube videos. You need to learn something called a high income skill. If you don't have a high income skill, if you can find a high income skill, it just makes your life so much easier because you have something that everyone wants. So let's give you an example of Facebook ads, running Facebook ads. Now, 99% of the population don't know how to run Facebook ads, but probably 50%, maybe 60%, I'm guessing, of businesses run ads of some sort. If you can learn a skill like Facebook ads or Google ads or any sort of ads, what that allows you to do is it allows you to go back up here into businesses and say, look, I'm going to give you the value of running your Facebook ads, and in return, I want a percentage of what you make. So any high income skill that you can learn whilst you're at your current employment, do it, learn it, build the business, and you'll enjoy it. So you've decided what you want to do. So then we need to go into step 2, which is, does anyone actually want this? Now, the easiest way for you to determine whether people are going to want to buy your product or buy a product of similar sorts is just working out, is there a product market fit for it? Now, the easiest way to do that is, are there any competitors in your industry? Now, a lot of people love the term that they can't sell their stuff because they're in something called a saturated market, right? So what a saturated market is, you're going to have to excuse my terrible handwriting and spelling, not my forte. A saturated market means that essentially there's a lot of players. So if you take, for example, let's take the drinks industry. There are thousands of drinks brands out there. But what that does prove is that people drink things. So if you're going into an industry, especially if you're first time and you've got something and it is a relatively saturated market, it's sometimes the best thing because it means there is a demand there. You just have to provide enough value and advertise enough to get over those people in order for them to buy your stuff. What you don't want to have is, you don't want to have a product that no one wants. Now, we've all had business ideas. We've all had people come up to you and be like, oh, I've got this new £1 million business idea that you listen to and you're like, no one would want that. And if you watch things like The Apprentice and you see some of their ideas, it's just rubbish. So sometimes, if you can look around the market and say there's no businesses doing this, well, sometimes that's for a reason, because A, no one's tried because there's no fear, or B, people have tried and it just doesn't work. So if you can find competitors, that is the best way for you to have a immediate feedback to whether you have any room to build this product. Second thing you could do is run a wait list or a survey. Now, what I like about wait lists, which essentially where you say, I've got this new thing coming out, would you like to sign up for it? It tells you immediately, or it tells you over a course of a few days or weeks or months or however long you run this for, whether people are actually interested in your product. Now, getting people from a wait list to actually purchasing, we run these for Leader, and your success rate is not going to be 100%. People do lie. Sometimes people like the idea of it. The amount of times that I sign up for free things or I tell people I'm interested, and when it actually comes to putting your credit card down, you're like, no, that's not for me at the moment. But it does give you enough of an indicator that people will be interested in whatever thing you're trying to sell. These are really, really cheap to make, very cheap to pass around. Again, we'll get on to step 3, which is where you're actually going to host whatever you're selling. But it's sometimes you can, the one that I did a couple of weeks ago was the Balance phone. So essentially it was a phone that they've brought out which has no apps on it whatsoever, no social media apps, nothing, just your, like an old-fashioned Nokia, but with like 2025 features like online banking and Authy authenticators, things like that. And I actually filled in the survey. I actually pleaded money to say that if you produce this product, I will buy it. And now I'm waiting for them to come through. I thought it was a brilliant example of what a waitlist could be. And also getting that immediate feedback, especially if you're launching something that you're not really, let's say there aren't many competitors in it. Let's say something like an old-fashioned phone, but on an Android, I think it was. It's a good way to get the feedback, but also to see if people are actually willing to pledge money towards that. If you can, then what you could do is offer something like a free trial if it's physical. So let's say you have a passion, let's say you're 18 and you have a passion in football or football coaching. You could offer some free trial sessions to friends or anyone you can kind of think of. I'm going to go through an episode where we go through how to actually get your first client. But if you can offer something for free and they can come and test it, you can actually see if there's any demand for it. Let's say you wanted to start a dog walking business. You've got some free time in the summer, you're 16, 17, 18, however old you are. You could go around and print off a few flyers, might cost you £5, hand them out down the road and say, look, I'll do your first dog walk for free. Here's my number, here's my WhatsApp, drop me a text and see how many texts you get. If you're going to get 25 texts within a week saying, yeah, can you come give me a free can you come give my dog a free walk because I'm busy at work, whatever, then you have customers really from day one that you can then go do it once and then come back and start charging them or do a free session if you're something like a football coach. If you have no replies and you find out that your area that you're in, no one wants to pay for this sort of stuff or no one trusts you with your dog, I wouldn't trust me to walk your dog, I probably wouldn't trust me to give you a football lesson either, to be honest. But any feedback like that you can get is going to give you a real good indication to whether your product or your service can fit in the market you have. And then the final thing to think about is, would you be a customer? If you're selling something that you wouldn't be a customer for, then you're pretty dead on day one, because if you can't convince yourself that it's a good product, then how are you going to convince anyone else? Now, obviously, there's things called delusion, which I am sometimes, especially sort of Neil used to say, I'm very delusional. I used to call him delusional as well, actually, because once you come up with your idea, you don't see any way out of it. It's like the best thing ever. But this is a good, if you can't find the pain, if you don't think that you would be a customer of it, then it's probably not the best product in order to go into. So I hope that makes sense. I know I jumped around a little bit, but yeah, that is step 2. Does anyone actually want whatever you're trying to sell? So let's say you have decided that you've decided what your product's going to be. You've worked out whether people are going to want to buy it, or at least you think people are going to want to buy it. Next thing is, where are people actually going to find you? So I believe that websites are dead. Now, I don't mean that completely, because websites are very important, but I don't think websites are nearly as important now as they were probably 20 years ago. I don't check websites nearly as much as I now check social media. So I believe that social media is now the new social proof of whether a business is real. So what I do when I buy a product is, let's draw me. Probably got a slightly bigger nose than that. But what I do is, once I see a product, so I've been hit with an ad. Let's say it's for a Whoop, which is probably the last purchase that I made from something like an ad. What I then do is I then go straight onto, that's meant to be my phone. There you go. Old fashioned phone. I go on there, I go onto maybe like Instagram or something, and I look for followers. Who is it? How many followers have they got? Is it a real brand? Have they got interactions on it, or is it, something that's just been made up? So once that I've done that, I then have enough, what I then call social proof, to then move on to something like a review site. Once I'm on the review site, I can see the reviews of other people. But again, everything I'm looking for here is social proof. I'm not looking for the website to see how fancy it was. Where we went wrong when we first started our first business was we got caught up in the website, making it the best thing in the world. Although it is important in some industries, especially if you're in regulated or very trustworthy businesses, or like old-fashioned corporate businesses, probably the best word, where you do need a good website. No one's really ever going to be sold by your website. They can get turned off by your website, but they're never going to be sold. It's going to take more. If they're coming on to check things like that, and if you're a B2B, it's not going to be the deal breaker. What's going to be the deal breaker is when you actually get on the sales calls. So where I'm going with this is, don't spend all day on the website. Things like social media, I think, are a lot more important these days, especially when you're doing something like, let's go back to the Facebook ads example. If you can get a good Facebook page done with some good content and some good, maybe even testimonials, and I'm not saying fake testimonials, but go and give out free services to build up your testimonials, because people want social proof more than they want anything else in 2025. So yeah, go out there, and you have to find a way that people can come and find you. If you are starting, you haven't got much money, you can't afford to run ads, then content like what I'm now currently producing is probably the best way, because you can produce content to many. So the reason why I like social media so much compared to websites is, for you to get traffic to your website, you need to pay lots and lots and lots in either ads, SEO, going to take probably 5 years, reviews, again, going to take about 5 years to build up. So when you are trying to drive people, that's going to the website. When you're trying to drive people to your website, it's extremely difficult. Whereas when you've got social media, what you can do is an advertising method called one to many. So you can produce one piece of content on something in your field, one to many. You can produce one piece of content to lots of people in your field, and they can get value from it, which will then build back up into a funnel for you to then sell to. Now, I'm not going to go into that in this video on how to build a one-to-many funnel, but again, once you have content that you can get put out there and go viral, or you can give tips and advice, it's not like the olden days where you used to have maybe like a TV advert where that was the only way to get in front of people. Then you had long form YouTube content, or you had tutorials and you had things like that, whereas now you can watch short. If I want to learn something quickly, if I want to learn how to put a meta tracking pixel on a website, I'm probably not going to read a blog about it. I'm definitely not going to buy a book about it anymore. And I'm probably not even going to watch a YouTube video. I'm going to go into the shorts section. I'm going to search how to put a meta pixel onto a website. I'm going to try and find a 15-20 second video. Bang, I'm going to go from there. So if you make that sort of content, people then start following you, and then from there you can then have enough sales and social proof in order to get your first funnel in and get people coming through the door. Let's move on to step 4, which the last 2 ones are extremely boring. Are we moving? Step 4, make it official. So once you've got your, always go and build the Instagram or Facebook pages or whatever you're going to sell on, LinkedIn pages first. But once you have that, you're going to want to make it official. So the easiest way, especially if you're in the UK, go onto Company House website. I think it's £12 currently. You can register with Company's House. You're going to have to do that to make a legal business. Once you've done that, you need to go and purchase your domain. Now, this isn't necessarily for the website. You don't need the website ever. But if you are going to go down the route, you're going to have to purchase a domain. This is more for the official email that you're going to need. Set your email up. Make sure you can actually get the Company's House name, get the proper domain. So if it's Mitch at ABC Trading, then go to Company's House, register ABC Trading, get the email set up, because you're going to need this for all of your official docs and things like that. Also, make sure you look professional for clients. No one sells anything off a Hotmail email address or an Outlook email address or a Gmail. Choose your domain provider. There's a million internet videos on how to set up a domain. Once you've done that, I would always advise going through a business plan. Even if you don't end up sticking to it, which 99% of business plans, you don't end up sticking to it step by step, but it's just a good way to look back and make sure you're on the right track. If you're like me, who's very forgetful, full of ideas, but not very great at finishing things, then having a business plan is good to then go back to ensure you haven't missed anything. Spend some time on this, make it as good as possible. Don't really need anyone else to read it. Just make sure that you have it and it's done. It also is going to help you get your things for official docs. So when you go and get your like incorporation letters and your registrar minutes, things like that, it's good to have all of those things together when you apply for things such as the final step, which is, if we come across, let's try again. Step 5, which is how to get paid. Now, you always need to make sure that you have somewhere to get paid. There's nothing worse than going through a sale and having no way of actually accepting the payment. So the quickest way to do that is, I believe, so many challenger banks now. You probably won't, as a new business, get accepted to, like Barclays or NatWest. They're probably not going to take you first time. But thankfully, you have things like Revolut, which I think you can get set up in one day. You have Tide, you have Starling, you have Monzo. These will take you in all one day to get set up. Wow, my handwriting's terrible. Once you have these set up in a day, what you can then do is go and get your payment provider. Now, not all businesses need a payment provider, especially if you're a higher ticket. But if you do, if you're doing subscription or if you're doing things like that, you need a payment provider. So the best one in the market is Stripe. Again, it takes about 1 day, maybe 3 days, 1 to 3 days to get set up. Once you have them set up, you then can ensure that you can accept the payments. So the thing that you don't want to do is just, you don't want to seem unprofessional, especially if this is your first, like when you're going through your first few sales, it's going to feel very imposter syndrome, where you're like, I don't deserve to be here. A little bit like how I feel making this first YouTube video. But once you get going, you're going to need the confidence, and doing things like Stripe just means that like everyone knows what Stripe is. I feel a lot more comfortable paying with Stripe than I would paying with any other provider. So once you have that set up, people are going to start taking you a little bit more seriously. And if you have any problems with all of that, we have YouTube where you can search how to set up Stripe, how to link ClickFunnels, how to link pay funnels with Stripe, things like that. But yeah, so that is in my opinion, the first 5 steps that you need in order to set up your first business. I will be releasing a couple more videos on how to do your first sale, and then a couple of videos on how I made my first sale, we made our first sale, and how we scaled from 0 to X in the smallest amount of time. So I hope you got some value from this, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.